Put on your adventure shorts, friends, because we're talking about the history of LARP today. First things first, here is the dealio, my dudes. I am not a historian. I will never be a historian, and this is just me gathering some research about some cool crap that I found that I want to share with you guys. So looking for early examples of LARP is going to lead you to pretty much just have a bad time. There are ancient Egyptian, like, hieroglyphs and Greek markings and shit that some researchers have found that they think is a parallel to theater games, but theater and LARP are very different. Eirik Fatland, during a presentation in 2014 about the history of LARP, said, "Role-playing is pretending to be someone else with someone else to interact with you. It is theater without an audience." However, in Lizzie Stark's book, Leaving Mundania, she talks about Elizabeth I, who is my new favorite person and was totally down with some hardcore role-playing at her parties. Listen to this crap. Elizabeth repeatedly encountered figures from myth who popped out of the shrubbery to poetically praise her and ask for her assistance. For example, while returning from hunting one day, the queen passed over a pool close to the castle. A guy who dressed as the sea god Triton swam up to beseech her majesty on behalf of the Arthurian Lady of the Lake, who was being threatened by the evil Sir Bruce, and I suddenly need to know everything about this Sir Bruce character. I love this. After the queen cowed the enemy with the majesty of her aura, the Lady of the Lake glided across the water on a movable island to thank the queen. The production value of this alone is just, long live the queen. Fatland also tells the story of a dude in 1908 in Vienna. This bro would visit a park, tell stories to children, and then get the children to act out scenes as those characters. The man's name was Jacob Levi Moreno. While living in Vienna in the early 1900s, Moreno started the Theater of Spontaneity, where he came up with a type of psychotherapy that he called psychodrama. It's not a great name. Psychodrama used improv and roleplay to encourage spontaneity and creativity in its members. Moreno moved to New York in 1925, and less than 10 years later he introduced group psychotherapy to the American Psychiatric Association. There are a bunch of interactive roleplay events that happened in the mid-1900s in the US, but they didn't use the term LARP. Frederick Lee Pelton ran a sci-fi LARP at the University of Nebraska in the early 1940s. It was documented in Life magazine, but they didn't actually use the term roleplay. And 2 years later, the entire city of Winnipeg, Canada staged a Nazi invasion for what they called If Day, which was also mentioned in Life magazine as play acting but not roleplay. But LARP wouldn't be what it is today without the miniatures and the role-playing games that were popular in the early 70s. Gary Gygax, founder of Gen Con Gaming Convention, which is just disgustingly huge now, paired with Dave Arneson, created Dungeons & Dragons, which expanded on Gary's previous game, Chainmail, and included fantasy elements and stories that he loved as a child. The game friggin' exploded, as we all know, and then Gary wrote a bunch of magazines and books and even an early 80s cartoon series about it. So with that in mind, there really is no mother LARP, but rather a crap ton of nerds who all decided at once to enact adventures in their backyards. The late 1970s and early 1980s were pretty much the golden age of science fiction and fantasy, for me anyways, because there's no beating the labyrinth by anyone, ever, and anyone who says differently can frigging fight me. Moving on. Also born were the comic book conventions, the Trekkies, and Star Wars. One notable beginning of a LARP was in 1977. A young college student and gigantic Tolkien nerd, Brian Weiss, started what he called Hobbit Wars, in which nerds would dress up in costume and hit each other with homemade weapons that were covered in foam for safety. Later named Daggerhair, this still-running LARP served as a precursor to the modern hobby, which focuses more on character development and story. From here, the history of LARP becomes absolutely nutty nuts. And there are so many little baby LARPs running in their different communities that I would tell anyone asking me to track them all to fuck right off. Still, LARP evolves, especially in the Nordic countries, which have a bitchin' art scene where games find public funding. So, what's next? Groups like the Institute of Play are teaching lessons through organized games to make the classroom more engaging. And Lord knows we need that. The amount of studying that I have done for LARP because I wanted to do it for LARP, that would have gotten me through high school and college. Easy. Just FYI. And as I said, role-playing for therapy has been a part of our culture for the last entire century. And LARP is coming closer and closer to the gasp mainstream. Then there are the technological advances that are consistently blowing my freaking mind. Projects like the Visions of the Infinite Dimensions, or The Void for short, create the possibility for entertainment to leave the couch and let virtual reality catch up with our imaginations. Recently, LARPs based on popular movies, TV shows, and games have been cropping up and gaining a huge following instantly. Like Harry Potter and the College of Wizardry LARP. I swear to God, if my life doesn't take me to that LARP, I will burn this city to the freaking ground. Moving on. Then there are movies like Role Models and Knights of Badassdom that make our nerdy hobby a little more acceptable to the masses. In breaking through the crappy rap that LARP has, you know, the jobless man who leaves his mom's basement to scream lightning bolt at his nerd friends, we help new members to this community experience the fucking awesome storytelling experience that is LARP. Well, I hope this has been informative and insightful for you. I have included a number of links in the description to references I found useful. Also check out Lizzie Stark's book, Leaving Mundania. Both seasoned LARPers and little newbies will enjoy it. That is it for this week, fair nerds. Tune in next week for a tutorial about how to paint scars and wounds on your face that will last all day. Like us, subscribe to us, fight with us. Then there are movies like Role Models? Role Models? I'm from Florida. Help me, I'm from the South.